I never thought I would witness my own family betraying me in real time, and definitely not through a camera I had installed with my own hands. But the moment I saw my parents standing inside my house that I had worked myself half to death for, while discussing how to secretly move my sister in without telling me, something inside me snapped. And the craziest part, they had absolutely no idea I was watching everything from thousands of miles away. So I need you to tell me, was I wrong for what I did next? Because honestly, I still don't know whether I reacted as a betrayed son, or as someone who finally realized his family never respected him in the first place. The story didn't start with sneaky cameras or secret plans. It started long before that, long before I even owned a house, before I had any idea that the people who raised me would one day plot behind my back. I grew up in a household where my younger sister, Sana, was always treated like some fragile princess who needed special privileges just to survive. I don't mean she was disabled or anything, she was just spoiled. Completely, unapologetically spoiled. My parents did everything for her, cooked for her, cleaned for her, paid her bills, made excuses for her mistakes, bailed her out of every mess she created. Meanwhile, I was the responsible one, the mature one, the kid who never needed help, the one who had to figure out life by himself. At that time I told myself it was normal. I told myself, it's okay? I'm the elder one. I should be independent. But I didn't realize that letting them lean on me all the time would eventually turn into them feeling entitled to everything I owned. I left home at 18 to join a specialized training program abroad. It was intense, exhausting, and honestly one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, but I did it because I wanted to create something better for myself. For years I lived in tiny apartments, worked extra shifts, saved every cent I could, and slowly began building a stable career. Meanwhile, every time I called home, my parents complained that Sana wasn't doing well, that she was struggling with school, that she needed financial help, that she needed emotional support. They never said it outright, but they always implied that I should be doing more. I was basically expected to be the backup parent, the emergency wallet, the crisis solver for problems I didn't even create. Eventually, after nearly a decade of grinding, I saved enough to buy a small but beautiful house back in my hometown. It wasn't a luxury, but it was mine. Fully paid, my own space, and honestly, buying that house was the proudest moment of my life. I decorated it myself, furnished it myself, and even installed a full security system. Partially because I traveled a lot for work, and partially because I liked knowing my home was protected. It had cameras outside and inside, nothing hidden or illegal, just standard security stuff. My parents knew they existed. They even complimented me for being so responsible. Funny, right? Anyway, after I bought the house, I told my parents they could visit whenever they wanted, but I made one thing extremely clear: nobody was allowed to live there. I didn't mean it harshly. I just valued my privacy. My house was my safe place, and I wasn't ready to share it with anyone permanently, especially not someone who treated life like one long vacation. And at first, everything seemed fine. My parents congratulated me, my sister pretended to be happy for me, and I felt like things were finally settling into a good rhythm. Then came the work assignment that changed everything. I got sent on a long project in another country, something that was supposed to last about 4 months. Before leaving, I triple-checked my house, updated my home security system, and even gave my parents a spare key in case of emergencies. I never imagined they would interpret emergency as please move a whole adult into my house without permission. The first few weeks away were peaceful. I was focused on work, adjusting to the new environment, and talking to my parents occasionally, though even then I noticed something weird. They were being vague, avoidant. Every time I asked about home, they changed the topic. When I asked how Sana was doing, they said, "She's managing." And when I asked how the house was, they said, "Everything's fine." It felt off, but I brushed it aside. Then one night, after a long, exhausting day, I logged into my home security app just to check on things. It was midnight in my location, but daytime back home. I expected to see an empty living room, maybe sunlight through the windows, maybe nothing at all. But instead, I saw movement. 2 figures walking around. My parents, inside my house, carrying bags, not small grocery bags, suitcases. I remember staring at the screen, frozen, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. My mom put a suitcase on the floor. My dad adjusted it. And then my mom said something that made my stomach drop. "We should put Sana's clothes in the closet before he notices anything." I swear I stopped breathing. Before he notices anything. That meant they knew what they were doing was wrong. That meant they were intentionally hiding it from me. That meant this wasn't a misunderstanding, it was a decision they made behind my back. My dad replied, he'll understand later. She needs a place to stay. He barely even lives here. What's the point of a house sitting empty while she suffers? Suffers. Sana hadn't suffered a day in her entire life unless you count running out of data as suffering. Then my mom said, we'll talk to him once she's already settled. He won't say no once she's in. That was the moment the betrayal began to burn. Because it wasn't just that they were moving someone into my house. It wasn't just that they were doing it without asking. It was the fact they were manipulating the situation from the start, planning to trap me into a decision, planning to emotionally force me to accept something I never agreed to. And then, oh, you're gonna love this, my sister walked into frame, wearing her pajamas, eating chips, like she already owned the place. She flopped onto my couch, wiped her hands on the cushion, and said, is the room ready yet? I want to put my makeup table near the window. My makeup table. Shar makeup table. I watched my sister treat my living room like a hotel lobby, and I just sat there shaking, unable to believe what I was seeing. My dad said, don't worry, we'll move things around. He won't mind. He's barely home anyway. My mom chimed in, and he should help family. That's what good sons do. Good sons. For years I had helped them financially, sent money when they needed it, paid for things I never used, supported them without complaint. And suddenly, helping family meant giving up my house without permission. I kept watching, unable to tear my eyes away. They walked into my bedroom, my private space. And I heard my dad say, maybe she should take this room. It's bigger. Take my room. My room. I felt anger creep up my spine like fire. Not the usual irritation, not annoyance, a deep, personal fury that shook me to the core. Because it didn't feel like they were using my space temporarily. They were rearranging things, moving furniture, opening drawers, discussing long-term plans. They were acting like I didn't exist. At one point my sister giggled and said, he'll probably thank us when he comes back and sees how much better it looks. Better? She was planning to redecorate my house. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and weirdly violated. Imagine someone opening your closet, touching your things, planning to replace them. All while you're thousands of miles away, powerless to stop it. I wanted to scream. I wanted to call them immediately. But I didn't. Something held me back. Maybe shock, maybe disbelief. Maybe the part of me that needed to hear every word they said before confronting them. They kept talking and talking, and the more they talked, the clearer it became they weren't confused. They weren't mistaken, they weren't accidentally doing something wrong. They knew. They knew exactly what they were doing. They were planning to move her in permanently. I closed the app and just sat there in silence, feeling this mix of sadness and anger and disappointment. I had trusted them with access to my home. I had trusted them as family. And in return, they were planning to take over everything I had worked for. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept replaying the footage in my head, thinking about all the sacrifices I had made over the years. All the times I let them prioritize Sana's needs over mine. All the times I told myself it was fine. But this time it wasn't fine. This time, they crossed a line they couldn't uncross. The next morning, I logged back into the cameras. This time my sister was in my kitchen, making food, wearing my slippers. My mom was unpacking her clothes into my closet. My dad was moving things around in my living room like some amateur interior designer. Watching them made everything inside me harden. I realized something very important in that moment. If I didn't stand up now, they would never stop. They would walk all over me forever. This wasn't about my house anymore. It was about respect, boundaries, self-worth. But before doing anything, I wanted to hear every detail of their plan. So I kept watching. Around lunchtime, my mom said, we have to finish before he checks the cameras again. So I'd know about the cameras. They just assumed I wouldn't check. My dad said, we'll tell him she has nowhere else to go. He can't refuse that. And my sister said, if he gets mad, I'll cry. He hates when I cry. It'll work. That one line made me sick. Manipulation, pure manipulation. And they had been using it on me for years without me noticing. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself, but it didn't work. I could feel something breaking inside me, something that had been stretched thin for too long. And that's when I made my decision. But before I tell you what happened next, I want you to stop for a moment and think. If you were in my position, thousands of miles away from home, watching your family try to steal your house, touching your things, making plans to override your boundaries, what would you have done? Would you have confronted them immediately? Stayed quiet, let them move in, fought back? Before I reveal the moment everything exploded, I want you to comment below and tell me exactly what you would have done in my shoes. When I finally made my decision, it wasn't one of those impulsive, angry reactions. It was a slow boiling realization that if I let this moment pass without standing up for myself, then I would lose more than just my house. I would lose every ounce of respect I had spent years trying to build. I would lose my freedom. I would lose the last bit of hope that maybe, just maybe, my family saw me as a person with boundaries and not a resource they were entitled to drain. I spent the next few hours getting my plan ready, watching them through the cameras as they continued rearranging my things like they were preparing a nest for my sister. And it was unbelievable how casual they were about it all, how they talked like they were discussing the weather. At one point Santa said, "I'm going to bring my cat too. He won't mind. He never says no to me." And my mom laughed, "Of course. He'll get used to it." I didn't know whether to cry or break something. My sister knew I was allergic to cats, extremely allergic, the kind of allergic that makes my eyes swell shut. And she still said it casually, as if my health was just a background detail. That was when the anger turned into something sharper. They didn't just want to take my house. They didn't just want to force me into accepting her living there. They didn't care about me at all. Not my boundaries. Not my comfort. Not even my health. I called my boss and told him I needed 2 days off. He didn't ask questions, he trusted me. I booked the earliest flight home, luckily. I still had a few days left before the company needed me back, and I knew exactly how to use them. The flight itself felt like the longest journey of my life. Every hour I spent in the air made the pressure in my chest worse. I didn't know whether I was angry, heartbroken, disappointed, or all of them mixed together. I kept imagining different outcomes, different ways the confrontation might go. I rehearsed what I would say, then deleted the entire thing in my head, then started again. Every few hours, I checked the cameras. Every time I checked, my stomach twisted. My sister had started opening my mail. My dad had moved my desk. My mom was cooking in my kitchen and had rearranged half the cabinets. They weren't treating my home like a temporary space. They were acting like it already belonged to them. When the plane finally landed, I didn't wait. I went straight from the airport to my house, suitcase dragging behind me like dead weight. I took a deep breath outside the door, stared at the familiar front of the home I worked so hard for, and felt something inside me settle into a strange, icy calmness. I unlocked the door silently and stepped inside. My mom screamed when she saw me. "You're home." Santa jumped up from the couch like she had seen a ghost. My dad froze in the hallway holding a box full of my things, that he was moving into the guest storage area like they were clutter. I stood there for a few seconds just looking at them, letting their shock simmer in the air, letting them feel the weight of what they had been doing behind my back. My dad was the first to recover. We were going to call you," he said, his voice shaky but trying to sound authoritative. Santa needed a place to stay. Her apartment was too expensive. This was the best solution. I stared at him and asked, "And you didn't think telling me mattered?" My mom immediately jumped in. "We didn't want to stress you while you were busy working. You're always so sensitive about the house. We were only trying to help Santa." Sensitive. That word hit me harder than it should have. They were making me sound unreasonable for wanting control over my own house. I kept my voice cold and steady, which scared them more than if I had yelled. "You broke my trust. You used your key without permission. You were moving someone into my home while I was away. You planned to lie to me. You planned to manipulate me. And you thought I would just accept it." Santa rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, stop being dramatic. It's not a big deal. You barely even live here. You're always traveling. It's not like you need the house." I turned to her slowly. "Not a big deal." My voice cracked on that last word, not out of weakness, but out of disbelief. "You're living in my house, touching my things, planning to bring a cat that could send me to the hospital, and you think it's now a big deal." She folded her arms. "You always overreact. Mom and Dad said it's fine." That was the moment something in me snapped in a very final, irreversible way. I said, "Get out." My mom gasped. "What?" My dad stepped forward. "No, listen," I said louder this time. "Get out. All of you right now." My mom tried to soften her voice like she always did when she wanted to emotionally manipulate me. "Honey, please. Santa has nowhere to go. Her landlord raised the rent. She can't afford it. She's going through a hard time." I looked at my sister. Not a single tear, not even shame. She was scrolling through her phone like I was interrupting her day. "A hard time," I said. "You mean the hard time she created by refusing to work, by refusing to save money, by refusing to take responsibility for anything in her life?" Santa snapped her eyes up, offended. "You don't know what I'm going through?" "You're right," I said. "I don't. Because I'm always too busy cleaning up the messes you all make." My dad slammed the box down. That's enough! You can't treat your own family like this. I looked him dead in the eyes. Family doesn't sneak behind your back. Family doesn't steal from you. Family doesn't manipulate you. You had a key for emergencies, not for invasion. My mom began crying. Not the soft emotional crying of guilt. No, the loud, theatrical crying she used whenever she wanted to control the narrative. We raised you. We sacrificed so much for you. And this is how you repay us? I said, yes, by drawing boundaries. Out. Now? They refused, so I did what I knew would end the discussion immediately. I stepped aside, pulled out my phone, and said, I'm calling the police. The silence that fell over the room was suffocating. Santa stood up immediately. Okay, fine. We're going. My dad's face went red with anger. You wouldn't dare. Try me, I said. I think he could tell I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't angry anymore. I was cold. I was done. And they finally understood that nothing they said would change my decision. My mom sniffled dramatically. We'll leave. But you're breaking this family. I didn't reply. They gathered their things. Sana stormed around, grabbing her makeup, her clothes, her snacks, everything she had littered across the house. When she saw I had put my shoes near the doorway, my shoes she had moved earlier, she shoved them aside with her foot just to be spiteful. My dad whispered under his breath, ungrateful. As he passed me, I didn't flinch. The moment the door closed behind them, I locked it and took a long, shaky breath. The house felt different, like something toxic had finally left the air. But I also felt hollow, because even though I had done the right thing, it hurt deeply to realize how little they valued me. I sat on the floor for a long time, staring at nothing, feeling the weight of years of emotional manipulation finally settling into clarity. They tried calling me. I ignored it. They sent long, guilt-tripping messages. I blocked them. They showed up the next morning banging on my door. I didn't open it. I needed space. I needed time to think. I needed to reclaim the part of myself I had allowed them to chip away at for years. The next few weeks were quiet. Too quiet. My relatives started messaging me, confused because my parents had twisted the story into something unrecognizable. According to them, I had thrown them out on the streets, kicked my sister out during a crisis, and acted like a stranger to my own blood. Nobody mentioned the part where they invaded my home. Nobody mentioned the part where they planned to trick me. Nobody mentioned the part where they violated every boundary I had ever set. But I didn't bother defending myself. Those who wanted the truth asked me directly. And I told them. I even showed a few close relatives the footage from the cameras. Their reactions were priceless: shock, disgust, disbelief. Some stopped talking to my parents entirely. Some confronted them. Some apologized to me. My parents didn't like that. They sent me angry paragraphs saying I was turning the family against them, even though all I did was show the truth. Eventually, Santa sent me a message. You ruined everything. I hope you're happy. I didn't reply. She blocked me afterward, which honestly was the easiest loss I've ever taken. Months passed. Things calmed down. I repaired the house emotionally and physically. I changed the locks. I removed the spare keys. I updated the security system. I took back my life. But there's more. One day I got a call from my aunt. She told me my parents were telling everyone I had apologized, that I had admitted I was wrong, that I had invited them back into my life, and that my sister was still planning to move in. That was the final straw. I posted a statement in the family group chat, something I had never done before. I didn't attack them. I didn't insult them. I just told the truth, what they did, what I saw through the cameras, how they lied, how they manipulated, how they lost my trust. The group exploded. Some defended me, some defended them, but I didn't care anymore. I wasn't doing it for validation. I was doing it for closure. And that day, for the first time in my entire life, my parents realized something they never thought possible. I wasn't their puppet anymore. I wasn't the son they could emotionally control. I wasn't the backup plan for Santa's poor choices. I was a person with my own life, my own boundaries, my own worth. A few weeks ago, they sent me a message saying they wanted to make things right, but they didn't apologize. Not really. They just said they missed the old relationship. I replied with the truth. There is no old relationship. There is only a new one with new rules. We are slowly trying to rebuild something. Not the same bond, not the same dynamic, something healthier, something real. But it's on my terms now, and that's the difference. So here I am telling you everything. After all this chaos, after all this betrayal, after everything that happened, here's how I see it. You can love your family, you can respect your family, you can care for your family, but you should never let your family walk all over you. And if they try, you stand up, you speak up, you protect yourself. Because sometimes the hardest boundaries to draw are the ones between you and the people who raised you.